Hey, and welcome to the Weed Out, where we weed out the bullshit and talk about the nonsense happening in our backyard. I'm the host, Spencer Fox Peterson, this week, and with us this week is Demilitarize Western Mass. We've had them on in the past. Things have really ramped up since the last time they were on our show to talk about how to get involved, their experiences as activists and organizers. They're based out of Northampton, which is in Western Mass. So everybody in the Western Mass area, these are people local. And if you're not in the Western Mass area, maybe you'll get inspired to join a group or take action like these folk have. In representing Demilitarize Western Mass today, we have Clara and Joey. How are you all doing? I guess we'll start since Joey's on the top of the screen. Joey, how are you today?
Pretty good.
And yourself, Clara?
I'm all right. Yeah.
So just so everybody knows, for posterity, we're recording this on June 20th. Maybe we'll come out next week, but it's hot as hell. We're in the middle of a heat wave, and it's the end of the day, so we might seem a little lethargic. But this work is important, and we got to get the message out. So, as always, thank you everybody for tuning into the show. You can go to www.theweedout.com to get any information about the episode that was just posted, whether it's social media contact or articles or anything that's referenced in the show that we feel pertinent. We try to make it as simple as possible and give everybody a bibliography to work off of. Transparency is really important here at the Weed Out. So as always, thank you for tuning in. Feel free to hit us up on social media. And without further ado, I guess since the last time y'all were on, what's been going on? Go ahead, tell the audience.
Yeah, I can start, and then
please,
Joey, you can hop in. Well, one thing that's happened that was great since the last time we were on is Joey became a member. Very exciting. And in general, I think after our October action, we had like a little bit of an influx of people who wanted to get involved, which was different. It'd been like a fairly stable group for at least kind of like the year-ish before October action. And so I think it's been really cool to kind of build our capacity and to kind of figure out how we can like grow and shift as an org as we like bring on new people.
Just so the audience knows, the last action, the October action we're referring to, they blockaded, the L3 Harris facility, which is a weapons manufacturer who is obviously tied in with the Zionist occupation of Palestine and other various crimes against humanity across the world. They're a cog in the very big war machine here in the United States. There's someone involved in the war machine in every town, and L3 Harris is the big one in Northampton. So you guys blockaded that. If anybody wants to go back, check that episode out. It was probably in the fall. So you mentioned growth with left-leaning or anarchist kind of whatever, non-mainstream, non-status quo type principles. It can be a little scary because you either get people that are really passionate about something in the moment and haven't really thought through the larger principles, and that's fine. I'm glad people are inspired by the moment. So there's some of that, like they kind of get hit with cold water when you realize, this is these people are talking about, I don't know, other thoughts, communism, whatever. And I was just here because I don't like war. And I'm glad people are opening themselves up to these conversations, but that's got to be a challenge. That's the one thing I think about when a group is expanding, getting a core group. So I guess since Joey's a newer member, curious what that's like onboarding and coming into a new group, maybe being exposed to new ideas. I don't want to presume what idea did or didn't have, but coming into a group, especially one that's not status quo based, I mean, I definitely had some culture shock when I was unlearning a lot of the things I had learned as a young person. So I'd love to hear your experience onboarding, Joey.
Yeah, definitely. I think I joined probably right around the beginning of the year, so like 6 months ago, something like that. And yeah, I would say I didn't know exactly what to expect. I was already connected with Clara, so I had some sense of um, the vibe, and I also had been excited by the action that they took in the fall, um, and so I'd say it's just been a process of getting to know the folks that have been around, and as I've been a part of things, there have been more people who have come on, and I'd say, we do have conversations about. What we're about, what our values are, what it looks like to be organizing around those values, um, how to be a group, which is its own complicated process. But yeah, overall, I'd say it's been pretty smooth.
Cool. I'm glad that you're able to find some community. I mean, I can only speak for myself here, like the weed out, what Joanna and I have been working on here. I mean, obviously we do other things, but building something, and we just started onboarding other people to co-host. So we have the one of the friends of the pod, Akil. He's done a couple episodes. Our friend Michael's going to do a couple episodes. So it is a little, when it was just Joanna and I, it's kind of like we kind of know what we're going to do, like how we're going to react or like to a thought, because we've known each other a long time and we've worked close together. So yeah, adding new people, you have to kind of like slow down. Remember, like, oh, we don't speak the same shorthand. We don't necessarily have the same priorities. Not saying that anybody's priorities are more important than the other, but like, Joanna and I are really hate cops and we always have. So that was the bonding thing. And then the other stuff got tied in. But yeah, so working with different people from different backgrounds, you got to like kind of remember, we don't all speak the same language. We got to invent or create a language that we all understand. So I don't know. It's great. I mean, so originally, how big was the group? Would you say October-ish? And then what are you looking at now for active members?
I mean, maybe leading up to October, kind of like at the average meeting, there was maybe 7 to 10 people, something like that. And I think now our meetings are probably something more like, I don't know, Joey, like 15-ish?
Yeah,
something like that.
Maybe even more.
Maybe even more. And I think, one thing that I have really loved about organizing with Demil is it's a really intergenerational crew. It's like a crew where like people are coming from different places politically, and it feels like there's space for people to come from different places politically, and then to kind of like take on those differences as they're actually relevant to the work, as opposed to like, okay, everyone has to check all of these boxes in order to show up to a meeting. It's like, okay, show up to a meeting, and then, in a recent meeting we ran into like, okay, what are different people's ideas about what nonviolence means? And like, because it was relevant in that moment, there was some space to talk about it. And we're also like, cool, we're going to talk more about this because, we're like finding that balance between like having the meta conversations or having like the theoretical conversations, and then doing all the other stuff with like logistical planning and work and coordinating. And for me, there's a lot of richness in doing that with a group of people who my experience has been like, even when there's differences in political theory, everyone's actually pretty down for most of the same stuff. And it's kind of like, okay, I actually don't care like what book you look to for like what theory of change you subscribe to. Like, we're all really down to like do this direct action. So let's just focus on planning the direct action.
No, that's great. And that's great because, in my experience of political organizing, obviously I never really jived, even when I was younger and didn't know anything, in my 20s. Like, I didn't drive with liberals or conservatives because I thought they were both full of shit. Like, my bullshit alarm was always going off. And then, I got involved with more workers' rights oriented type folk and communists. Oh, excuse me. And, I had a really hard time with the communism people. Not because I disagree with their values. I just had a hard time with people with dogma. Like, we have to be flexible. We have to be willing to learn. We have to be willing to build something new instead of looking backwards all the time. So like I had a hard time with that, but that's where, doing something like the weed out, right? Like, or just focusing on an actual one. I mean, not to sound like make it sound like a one issue, but it's like, no, I'm personally going to focus on police. The problem overall is so big. Like you can't be a jack of all trades. So like focus on one thing. But that means other people have to do other work. So, the good thing about it sounds like with Demilitarize, this is just my perspective, so correct me if I'm wrong. It's a decentralized group. I mean, you don't have a Washington D.C. office. You don't have even a Boston office. It's hyper local, and it's with people you can touch and see and feel, and also like it does that thing like the deep down humanity element of us that we are social creatures. Right. So, I mean, that's got to feel good being part of a community of people and like having goals. Like that's got to help. I'm sure it's hard and it's depressing sometimes, but it must feel nice to be around people that want to work towards the same things.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's funny because, like Clara said, so many people in this group are all down for similar things. And it is also a group of people that I don't feel I would have necessarily connected with otherwise, which is just like a really cool aspect of it.
Yeah, you mentioned the intergenerational aspect, which is great, because older people you may not always get along with, but they've seen some shit. They could tell you what it was like protesting the war and the first Gulf War or the Vietnam War, whatever. Previous issues are just feeding again right now. And then also younger people, younger than us, it's all relative, right? Like they see the world from a different point of view. So they might see a solution that I can't see because, I was raised a cis white het guy. And I just, even though I try to unlearn stuff and try to reprogram myself, there's still defaults in me that, a younger person or somebody from a different background, no matter what the background is, working with them is great because then you see it's like, a simple one would be like when I was working in kitchens, working with somebody that's like 4'10" versus somebody that's like 6'10", which I've worked with both. And I'm 5'10", literally right in the middle, and the whole place is built. I can reach everything. I don't have to climb on nothing. I don't have to bend over, but that whole realizing that everybody sees something different, it must feel rewarding, I guess. Could you elaborate on any of that?
I mean, I think for me, one, like it just feels more. I think anytime that I get to organize in a space that feels like a more realistic sample size of like our actual world, it feels like a win, right? Where it's like, like communities involve all of us. And so I want to be organizing with all of us. And that feels like one piece. Another is like, I just think we're so lucky that like there are some people in Demil who just like have so much experience and so many skills that it's just like really cool. Like I think all the time I'm kind of just like sitting back and like taking notes, just being like, okay, like that was your experience back in whatever. Like, okay, when you were in DC jail, here's how it was different than like the Massachusetts jail. And just like, it just feels like there's so much, it's such a resource. And then I think too, like the way capitalism works, like folks who are older and are retired have more time. And so like some of our members who are retired, like it's really cool to see just like how much of their lives they're able to and choosing to like commit to this work in a way that also feels like it really like adds capacity to what we do, because there's someone who's available to like, show up early in the morning, and there's someone who's available for like a midday action, and there's, it just feels like really like capacity nourishing to have like a broad spectrum from like students to retired folks.
And you mentioned the capitalism aspect, where capitalism, a side effect or whatever you want to call it, or a design, a purposeful design, is to isolate us and to put us in these individual places and and really, really bog us down with either work or health problems or whatever. It really does a good job at that. So this is like kind of the antidote. Not only you organizing directly against the war machine and the bigger machine capitalism, but it's also the literal antidote to the poison of capitalism. You make community with people that, like you said, like normally, in the status quo, you wouldn't really interact with these people other than maybe it would be your boss, and that's a power dynamic. Here, you're equal. You're here because you want to be here. And you mentioned jail, which I have always can talk about that. But what have you guys done since October? And then what were the consequences?
So 2 weeks ago, we did a second blockade at L3 Harris. This time, we blockaded the loading dock specifically. And, you know, a, a big part of the reason there was hoping to have sort of a material impact, for a moment, for a day. But on their ability to, carry out their production and transport the things that they produce that are, directly contributing to genocide in Palestine right now. And so we, Clara and I and two other comrades were locked into a truck in front of the loading dock. And it took about 4.5 hours for them to get us out of that situation. The cops, that is.
Which boys in blue did you have the pleasure of interacting with that day?
Everyone and their mother's cat, actually.
State police.
Yeah. Locals, state police, animal control.
What? Did you have animals there?
No, we didn't.
We had 2 different fire departments.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
They were there with Jaws of Life, presumably.
No.
And then
I'm sorry, sorry to cut you.
No, you're good. And then the state's special extractions team, their CERT team, which is like staties, but special staties.
Yeah, I know a little bit about them. Unfortunately, not because I've been on the receiving end, but because of the research I've done. They're all those units. Did you have to deal with the sheriff? Great. Oh yeah. So what was the booking? Who got booked? I mean, not who got booked, but how many of y'all got booked? What was the process in court? This is important for people to hear, I think.
So the 4 of us who were locked into the truck were arrested. And we were arraigned the next morning. And I actually don't know all the charges offhand. Trespassing, disturbing the peace, resisting arrest, and
interfering with an officer.
And I additionally am I have a charge, a felony charge of intentional destruction of property. They are saying that I damaged L3's property, bringing the truck onto the grounds. So we have some time to get all our ducks in a row and head to court.
Well, kudos to you. I'm sorry you have to go through that machine. It's not easy. And is there any way people who are listening can support y'all? Is there a fund? Is there how can people listening help you? Because this shit ain't cheap.
Yeah, I think it's kind of TBD.
Mm-hmm.
In the past, for our last series of court stuff, Luke Ryan represented us pro bono. We're still feeling into what the options are for representation in terms of like who could represent us and like what might be like pro bono or low bono or full cost. And I think it feels like there has been an impact from all the organizing that's been happening, right? And like, over the last 9 months or whatever it's been, there have been a lot of people getting arrested doing direct actions. And I think that's like badass and really exciting. And my sense is like the lawyers are kind of having to figure out how to navigate like their decisions in terms of like how they can sustainably support the movement and, do whatever else it is they got to do. So it's TBD whether or not we'll end up doing fundraising for legal fees. And then based on who our lawyer is, it's also TBD when our court date is. But when we go to pretrial, I'm sure we'll have some kind of post on Instagram. And I think in general with court, like the more people showing up, the more likely it is to kind of like have favorable outcomes, just in terms of like showing that system that like there's eyes on it and that people care and that like there's people who would raise a ruckus if like, they try and make examples out of anybody. I think maybe fundraising, maybe showing up, follow our Instagram because both are TBD.
And I will gladly make sure we promote that. Maybe we'll have you guys, somebody back on to talk about it if that works. Our platform is your platform. We want to make sure we can lend our hand in any way we're able to. So I guess that's the binding contract I just offered. But I think you're doing great stuff. And it's brave of anybody, but I'm sure you're not thinking about your bravery. I'm sure you're thinking about the people that are being directly harmed. Thus why you have to do direct action. And direct action could look like lots of stuff. But I want you to, it's an awful fucking system to go through, whether you're innocent or guilty or did something heinous or not. It's torture. So especially if you have any sort of ADHD, forget remembering all those dates. But the there's this Karen Reed case going on in Eastern Mass right now, but like the takeaways are people only care because it's a white woman with some privilege, I guess. She's upper middle class, whatever. But people made such a stink, and because her team got it out there and got the power of the people. Like, this person's likely being framed by the state, and they overcharge to get people to plea. Like, the charges you just read off, it's the same playbook. And I talk to lawyers, and I follow a lot of lawyers on the internet, and it's the same game. They overcharge, and they hope you'll just fuck it, lock me up for 30 days, whatever the outcome is. If they want to prove a point, which with protesters, I'm sure they do like to prove points, but sometimes the things they charge you with, the judge just looks at it and is just like, what the fuck is this? Like, they were sitting in a driveway. Sure, they trespassed. Okay, cool. Don't do anything for 6 months. Like, don't be a fuckhead for 6 months. And like, but it sucks to have to rely on that. And, especially when we're talking about such heinous crimes that are being perpetrated by these things that are in our backyard. It's crimes don't equal morality. So I think what you guys risked and are risking is morally justified. At least that's my point of view. So kudos to y'all. And I'm sorry you're going through this, but there's people dying, and I'm sure that's exactly why you all did it. But how were the police with you overall? I mean, you don't want to. I know you have an open trial, but were they reasonable?
they were definitely less reasonable than they were last time, is what I'll say. I think there were a lot of pretty blatant efforts to make us uncomfortable in multiple ways. There was a lot of like trying to make us scared in order to unlock, whether it was like telling us that there was like a tornado coming, or like they put tourniquets on our arms, kind of just like creating a sense of intensity. And then they didn't allow our legal observers or our police liaisons to be around in contact with us. They completely blocked us off from view, including blocked us from legal observers' views.
New chief in town.
Right, which just wasn't precedented, at least in our experience or in some of the other experiences of people who've been doing similar organizing. So, you know, we're all okay.
Right.
And I think, you know, in October, one of the things that was really dissonant was like how friendly they were and how like accommodating they were and how whatever. And like it both sucked to not be treated so gently or kindly this time. And I think it was like, okay, like the masks are off, you know,
right.
Like I think without legal observers there and without people recording, there was like a much more honest representation about who they are, who they protect, and how they understand their rights and power.
Yeah, everything sounds pretty on brand for them. And that is, when I say reasonable, to me, that's as reasonable as it gets with them. And it's still unpleasant. And I am not shocked. Like, I think the changing, I don't know if they have an interim chief. I can't remember. But Chief Casper's gone. She was the chief during October. So that shows the tone change. And there are some, I mean, it's known fact. There's this guy named, I don't know, Borowski. Are you familiar with this guy? He works for the Northampton police. Dude's a menace to society. And now he was one of the most senior people. So it's like he may not be chief, but he has the respect of everybody in that building, you know, under him. He's like a sergeant or a lieutenant. And it's just like, it wouldn't shock me with the interim or the new chief, that attitude taking over. Because he famously butted heads with Chief Casper. So that's just like the internal that's my perception of the politics of the Northampton PD. I really despise the Northampton police more than most, just because it's like there's no need for this in this town. Like, people are relatively chill here and understand there's a lot of abolitionists in this town, and it's kind of despicable that we haven't been able to push them down. Sorry, I'm opining. I have it out for them because they kind of do. What's that?
I think it's despicable everywhere. You know,
it's despicable everywhere. But I just feel like if we can't get a win in a place like Northampton, not a win, but if we can't get reason in a place like Northampton, my city, Holyoke, will never, ever, because we need positive examples. And unfortunately, a place like Holyoke, people are dug the fuck in. Like, the pro-cop shit in Holyoke, it's crazy. Northampton, there's at least a community of people there, and it's mostly understood that, like, yeah, we're not really, you know, we're liberal here, you know. we don't love the police. But yeah, I guess you're correct to point that out, Joey. It's despicable everywhere. Sorry. Go on.
Go ahead, Joey, and then I'll do my plug for something related. But you go
first.
Well,
just to add to, I think, you know, like, abolition is like not just one thing. You know, it's like it's a whole process, and it's the process of not only unraveling and like, you know, deconstructing institutions like the police, but it's also about, you know, like building a community that sustains itself and that's able to like take care of conflict and able to like navigate differences of all sorts and, you know, of all different proportions. And I do think that this kind of organizing, like, it's not like a walk in the park, and it's not perfect at all, but it is an example, I think, of what it looks like to be building a community that is disruptive and also creative, and whose aims ultimately are about being able to be connected with each other in a way that's sustaining for everyone. So just want to throw that out there.
No, abolition, as you said very, very eloquently and astutely. I also I think what I hear, and I say this in some variation myself, you have to make these institutions irrelevant. We can't just smash them. We have to build up institutions and community more than institutions. But we have to figure out a way to solve our problems, de-escalate, and without involving the police, make them irrelevant, and we can make capitalism relevant. We're on the road to abolition. So you're absolutely. I'm so glad I met you tonight, because I think you said it better than I could ever say it. So thank you so much for coming on an abolitionist podcast and saying that. That's a very great point. And Clara, you said you wanted to plug something, so please.
Yeah, just speaking of like abolition in Holyoke, and so I organized with Demil, and then I organized with Neighbor to Neighbor in Holyoke, which to me is like a really sweet, like they just feel really complementary in a sweet way. But in Holyoke, we're trying to set up a police commission, and the police union here is like so entrenched, and a lot of people feel like the police are like their only source of safety from things that feel scary. And like, it's I guess I'm just like, I've been experiencing the space that people have in Holyoke, or at least that many people have in Holyoke for at least shifting towards the police having less power.
Yeah.
And I think that between Northampton and Holyoke, people are using different words for it, and like people are potentially like understanding what the long-term solution is in a different way. And I think like my experience organizing across those communities is like most people don't feel safer with the police. And feels like, I'm excited to like build capacity and like build momentum around that, and anywhere and everywhere.
Yeah. And we just had Jose on from Neighbor to Neighbor last week.
Sweet.
Love Jose.
Yeah.
And he has such a good way about him. And I don't know him well, but we've conversed about abolition and other things multiple times over the last since 2020, so 4 years. And every time he's just such a great guy. So if anybody wants to, I guess I know this is demilitarized, but reminder, go back and listen to Neighbor episode and or organize with Neighbor. They're in Holyoke, they're in Springfield, they're gonna be in Worcester, I think he said. Mm-hmm. And then what is he?
Lynn.
Lynn. So anybody listening in Massachusetts, Neighbor is a great organization to get involved with, get to know your community. Very focused on lots of things, but it's all about people. So like in Holyoke we have landlord issue. I mean, most places do, but Holyoke's pretty egregious. And without Neighbor, we wouldn't be getting close to an office of tenant protections. And I'm not saying that's the silver bullet, but it's something we gotta try other things. And they're working on the police commission too. What are you at? You guys are at like the point where you're doing surveying, right?
Yep.
On the police commission. So if anybody needs any information about that, I can definitely, if you email the weedout at gmail.com, I can get you in contact with the people, or I guess this would be a good time to plug how to get in contact with you guys.
Sure.
What's the best way to reach out for you guys for organizing, or just see what you guys do to maybe inspire themselves in their own community?
We have an Instagram, which is at Demilitarize Western Mass. That's where we'll post kind of like actions, updates, etc. And we also have a link tree in our Instagram bio where people can fill out a form if they're interested in organizing, or if people just like have questions. probably messaging our Instagram is the quickest way to get a response.
And I will post all that on the show notes. So I'll post the link tree and whatever that you just mentioned. So that way, if you're listening and you want to get in contact with them, please go ahead and, and if it's just picking their brain on how to organize, I'm sure they'd be happy to help you.
Absolutely.
Because it takes a village, the internet's a great place. It can make you feel lonely, but make you feel, in community. And, not knowing what the fuck I'm doing with a podcast or any sort of media stuff other than being a consumer of it, there's other people doing it that I've talked to online. And, especially in this sphere, like, how do you deal with this? How do you deal with that? Or what service are you using to, stream or to edit, or it's great to just don't feel, just ask people, just ask. Worst thing they say is no, right?
Yeah.
Also, that kind of brings up something we've been talking about in Demil, which is like, there's momentum right now. People are mobilized in a way that's like really cool to see and really cool to be a part of. And so we'd love more people to join us. And like, what does it look like, right, to have like a broader community that is organizing, that is doing direct action, right? What does it look like to have different groups that are joined together in different ways, that collaborate with each other in different ways, all toward the end of more freedom for everyone.
It reminds me of at the end of the Trump term, or maybe right after, like a DOJ report came out about Antifa. And it was basically like, there's no leader. It's just a bunch of people. And some of them are on Zoom chat. Some of them are just neighbors. Like, there's no organization here, like, that we can see, because the U.S. government is a big clobbering, like, behemoth of a machine. They can't understand how there's not, like, triplicate. It's like, no, like, every community is different, and we have, honest, human oriented goals. Like, hey, can we stop fucking murdering people? It's actually crazy that we have to say that. So anybody listening, you're not going crazy. We're all feeling that too. Please stop killing people. But I guess my final question for you both, either or if you don't want to answer, like, what is something that scared you about organizing, but you feel really good about now?
I don't know. I need a second to chew on that one.
Well, in the meantime, I will plug the website, www.theweedout.com. You can go there, check the links to the show. Always good to remind everybody at the end of the show, I do a segment called Ghoulery and Tomfoolery, where I or whoever else is on the show react to an article. You guys are invited to do that with me today, but if you're on a time crunch, you do not have to do that with me. It's fun. It's usually something absurd. It's usually something relatively local, and we talk about, is it more ghoulery or is it more tomfoolery? So now that I've vamped, does anybody come up with an answer to my question, or is it a bad question? It's okay if it's a bad question.
No, I think it's a cool question. I have like a semi-answer.
Okay.
I don't know. Joey, did you come up with anything?
I'm working on it.
Okay. All right. You keep working on it.
Also, if it's too exposing, don't say it. Just say, I don't feel like this is not this isn't the no spin zone. I feel free to do whatever you want here. What's your thought?
Yeah, I feel like for me, particularly like when I was starting to organize and didn't feel that experienced, and like, I feel like before I was an organizer, like the people around me would like critique organizing. And so I feel like I was around a lot of like critiques of like, oh, like this is the wrong strategy, or like this was the wrong thing to do, or like, oh, like this is the thing. They just felt like there was a lot of critique. And so I think when I started organizing, there was a lot of fear around like doing it wrong. And just like, oh, I'm going to like yeah, I'm gonna like mess up, or like what I'm doing isn't gonna be effective, or like the strategies we're using aren't gonna be like the best strategies. Like there was this real sense of needing to like optimize, and that there was kind of like a best way to organize, and that like whatever I was doing, it like had to be the best. Um and I think sometimes I will still get in my head about that, and it'll still feel scary to like take a risk and try a new strategy and be like, maybe this is going to totally flop. I don't know. Maybe in hindsight, I'm going to feel really stupid for doing this. And I think I do have a lot more space for like the image that comes to mind is just, and I don't actually think this metaphor makes sense, but it's what comes to mind. Like it just feels like throwing spaghetti at the wall and just being like, this isn't going to be pretty. It's going to be like weird and messy, but like some of it's going to stick. And if everybody's throwing spaghetti at the wall, then like the wall's going to be a different wall in a few years. And that's what I got. That's what my brain got to.
Okay. I like that answer. I like that. And Joey, what's your take?
Yeah, kind of same, but different,
Less spaghetti.
Yeah, less spaghetti. My mind wasn't there, but now it is. Yeah, I think just like joining a new group is hard, and it's hard to know if it's going to be a group that you fit with, that you have enough alignment with, that you can really do things that feel, um, exciting, powerful, creative, disruptive, all those things. Um, and so I think that may have been like the most intimidating thing. I'm the kind of person who has always kind of had a little bit of a predisposition to be someone who doesn't mind like getting into trouble, or like, you know, doing the things that are sort of breaking the rules is like less difficult for me than just figuring out how to, how to like let myself be with people in a way that feels authentic, and letting us all do the weird, messy spaghetti thing.
Thanks for the tie-in.
No problem.
I think Joey and I have a lot more in common. I have no filter and I'd never had a problem with getting in trouble. It gets you, bad. It has its ups and downs, but overall, would never change it. And also, I completely understand where you're coming from, Clara, and I get it, because when I was a kid, I played bands and stuff, and like everybody would be like, "Oh, we can't play in front of people." It's like, you just got to do it. You just kind of just got to do it. And ask for forgiveness later, but also be willing to eat shit when you fuck up, and obviously try to not hurt anybody. But this is brave work what you guys are doing. I think it's really important to throw mud in the gears of the machine. And I drive a truck and drop shit off at loading docks, and I can tell you that absolutely would have an effect on my day. And would definitely fuck up business. Because I know how, like, when the Big E happens, trying to get down, that road to get all those restaurants in the Big E, it's a fucking nightmare. So, and how it ruins the week. But yeah, I'm so happy that y'all are doing what you're doing, and I hope you'll come back on sometime and tell us more. And be safe, I guess, would be as safe as possible while doing this kind of direct action. And if you guys are interested, I am going to do ghoulery and tomfoolery next, if you want to stick around. Sure. All right. Let's take it, wing it. If it doesn't come out great, I'll just edit it out. It's no big deal. So basically, I'm not doing a local story today, but my two least favorite internet personalities are fighting, and it gives me great joy. Basically, I don't know if you're familiar with Nick Fuentes. He is an alt-right weird sect of Catholic, the same sect of Catholic that the Conways and fucking Clarence Thomas is in, Supreme Court Justice. Like these really fringe Catholics. I grew up Catholic and they freak me the fuck out. Anyways, AOC has been criticizing, and I really dislike AOC too, because I feel like she's talking out both sides of her mouth on this genocide stuff. So she got a pissing match with him on Twitter, and they both look like assholes. So that's the gist of it. I just want to hear y'all's take on, the enemies are fighting. My take. I'll go first to give you a little take. I feel like even Drago in Rocky, where I'm like, if they die, they die. Like I do not fucking care who wins this argument. I do not care. I hope they both lose. Like I hope they both have egg on their face, because engaging with a far right lunatic, to me, it's like, why you're a sitting representative in Congress and you claim to be against the far right, and you're platforming this freaky like 21-year-old kid that thinks women should be, slavery should come back. Like he said some wild shit and he truly believes it, and he's got a huge following. So I guess the whole point of the segment would be ghoulery. Are you more by it, or are you more like, oh my god, this is such a waste of energy, I hate these people, and I think they're both ghouls? So do you think it's funny when fascists fight each other? So, Joey, you first.
Maybe an unpopular take, but I think, anything's game in that, I'm someone who, has these values related to abolition that we've been talking about and all of that. And, I still grew up in this world, I still have my own like things that I've internalized and that I'm working with. And I think that's true of everyone. And so, in a way, my interest is like, what is actually going on with these people that they've gotten to this place? Because I don't think I'm not them, but I'm also like not entirely separate from them, because I don't think anyone is, because we're all here. So maybe that was too much of a serious answer.
No, not at all. You're allowed to. This is the weed out. We all speak our mind here. So if you're feeling, and you're right, I do think that seeing their humanity is important, because when you start dehumanizing people,
well, that might be a little far for me, but I do think, I'm interested in like how we've all gotten to the places that we are, which maybe is a little off topic, but I do think that it ties back into like how we organize ourselves, how we build relationships and community and all
that. I love it. I love when people see, without Joanna's sorry, my wife calls it me and vinegar. Like the person that's like, wait, stay on track, dude, and then me, who is like, ah. So your take on ghoulery and tomfoolery is more like, wow, how did this happen? And I wish it wasn't this way.
Yeah.
That's a great attitude, and I love it. Okay, Clara, your turn. Ghoulery or tomfoolery?
I think ghoulery, ? If I had to pick one,
we don't believe in binary choices here either. So you can pick both or none. As Joey said, fuck that. I don't even. I reject the premise respectfully.
I mean, I guess my thoughts are right. Like, for me, as someone who, I think everyone, right? Like, there's so many things that are grabbing for our attention. And I think that, like, stuff like that is such an attention grab for many people. And I think that I'm someone who just like, my bubble has to be small, and like it's really hard for me to like think about like the macro stuff, or to kind of like, it just feels like a an energy expenditure that I can't afford, and that I think actually many other people can't afford to care or to pay attention. And I think that like whatever energy is getting put into like caring about their Twitter fight, I guess I'm just so much more interested in where else that energy could be going when it comes to like, okay, like where's like the conservative values showing up in your life, and like who do you know that's like transphobic, and like it just is like there's so many places for us to put our energy that are like within 2 miles, that I just like I think personally have a little bit of an aversion to like caring, although I'm glad that some people do, because I think someone needs to. It just can't be me.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very, I have my selective folk and traditional Catholics. Like it's my trauma. I won't lie to you. I want to see them fail so bad. I don't want to see them hurt, but I want to see them crawl back under a rock. So I get, that's why that was a personal one today. Normally
I
I
think
don't
there's
even,
a lot of people that we
but
would benefit from seeing fail.
yeah, but
There's a lot of people
also
with really awful agendas.
I also wanted to. You made a great point about bread and circuses. I mean, it's essentially it's another distraction. It's another thing that sucks our, that attention could be spent something. Even it doesn't even have to be work or productivity or an action or learning. It can just be enjoying something. You could be eating an ice cream cone. So yeah, it's hard to like. Yeah, I don't. It's that's why I like the Kardashian stuff. It's like, who cares? What is this? Like, it's a whole industry of why are you watching this shit? It's completely fucking brain dead, dude. There's nothing there. It's a complete distraction. But then again, like people who are consumed with politics, it becomes their version of that. It can also consume you, and you lose the big picture or the little details. You just kind of get lost in the sauce with that shit. So I guess it's all ghoulery. I guess that's how the segment pretty much always ends. Everybody's kind of like, yeah, it's pretty fucked up, or pretty, yeah, because even if this instance isn't fucked up, but the fact that we just, there's hundreds of thousands of people opining on this, and we'll write articles about it and make TikTok videos. We just did a segment of ghoulery and tomfoolery, but at least we turned it into a meta critical conversation about media consumption. So
You know what
Joey,
I think is the middle ground?
what's that?
Hot moms for Palestine.
Okay. Yeah, we
Everyone
can
loves
buy that.
Oh wait.
Yeah. Okay.
Um,
I'm just learning about this right now, and I feel like now, yeah. I mean, I don't know much about the cause, but I feel like I like all the words there.
yeah, yeah. I mean, that's really like all that it's about. But I'm sure there's one in your neighborhood, if not more. Um, and we decided that they were with us in spirit in our action. We painted "Hot Moms for Palestine" on the hood of that truck.
Yes, I
Um,
did see that. Okay, so I have heard of this. Okay,
yeah, yeah.
because I
So,
saw both.
but yeah,
Um,
I think that's when it comes to media consumption, "Hot Moms for Palestine." I'm
and I
so in.
assume they have snacks. Hot
Yeah,
moms. They
yeah.
have
Moms usually
snacks.
have snacks, I think.
I mean, that's
Especially the hot
really
ones that are for Palestine.
you got snacks in there. Have me at snacks, but and anytime we can give the middle finger to the machine, it's a good time. I see my job is to drive up and down the roads. I see cops on there. Like I'm coworkers with these fucking people, at least the traffic duty ones, and they're the worst. I get pulled over that by the DOT. It's random. There's no rhyme or reason. They can't know it's me in the truck, so it's nothing personal. Because we all share trucks, and there's a bunch of trucks. So, but yeah, they're not fun to deal with. They suck. Like Just this is always unpleasant. It's like, why? Why does it have to be like this? You're here to make sure this machine is safe. Why do you have to give me an attitude? The machine's safe, right? Cool. All right, then we can move on. No, you got to ask me 10 more questions. Be a dick about it.
Yeah.
I got fish rotting in the truck here, so I kind of want to move. And that's my rant for the day. So thank you very much for listening to me. I love what you guys are doing. Please come back on the show, and we'll link everything in the website on the episode notes. So anybody listening, just if we mentioned something you wanted to go see their link tree, please check them out. If you're in the area and you're looking to organize, Demilitarize Western Mass. They're doing cool stuff, and they're building community. So if you're looking for community and with people with value human rights, you guys are the right people to maybe see if they fit in. Do you guys have any final words for the audience before we sign off for the day?
Just that we're here to be a resource. I think like a part of our work is like, targeting the stuff that we target. And another part of our work is like coalition building and community capacity building. So there are ways that we can be of service to other people who are, trying to head the world in a similar direction. Just, we want to be a resource.
And Joey, do you have anything you'd like to add before we sign off?
No, I'll just echo that. That was great.
Well, it's a pleasure having you on. Again, thank you so much for doing what you do. And everybody, if you need anything, you can always reach out to us at theweedout@gmail.com. We appreciate you. Love y'all. Keep weeding out the bullshit. And we'll see you on the other side.